Alright, so we're going to be talking about national stem cell policy comparison with the United Kingdom, China, Italy, and Germany. And I'm Jaden Miller, so let's get started. We're talking first about the United Kingdom, which is one of the world's leaders in embryonic stem cells. So by this, it just means that they're really amazing research. They're doing some amazing things because they have permission. They actually are allotted within their government a particular section that is completely designated to research of these embryonic stem cells. Of course, there are regulations with many governments with these kind of particular ethical ideals. Stem cells have a long-standing history of just complicated ethical issues. So, in order to kind of keep their relations with the United States and with a lot of other countries, the UK kind of allows embryos to mainly just be used for research purposes. But their research is astonishing, and they are leading the world in these things due to their large government and public support. So, UK really doing a great job in embryonic stem cells. China, very similar when it comes to doing amazing things. Because of China's very, very loose kind of rule book when it comes to, many things. Their government is very loose when it comes to a lot of things. But in particular, the use of stem cells, they're the first to verify totipotency of iPS cells, and they also induce pluripotent cells, and they're all over the place when it comes to success, when it comes to these particularly difficult scientific discoveries. They actually have a Ministry of Health, similar to the UK's kind of branch, but they allow for research, except for reproductive cloning. All of these don't allow reproductive cloning, but it's just interesting that China is not allowing this, seeing as how they have very little regulation. Embryos can be created for research here in China, so they actually do a lot of sending out of their embryos, to places like Germany, which we'll find out later. And so IVF, aborted fetal cells, somatic cell nuclear transfer, and voluntary donation of germ cells are all other ways that China can collect these stem cells as well. So Italy is kind of the first one we're going to talk about that has a little bit more regulation. So Italy actually prohibits the use of embryos for any research unless it's specifically focusing on improving the medical condition of the embryo. The reason I just read that is because it's super key. This little fact and this wording that's kind of exactly put out there allows for scientists to kind of make this into a loophole. And what I mean is if they're going to improve the long-term medical condition of this embryo, then they need to do research on the embryo. So that's kind of how they've been getting around it, and that's how they've been able to do some of these things. So they can't create embryos, and they can't destroy them without certain conditions, and there's lots of things that are iffy, but it all kind of pulls out of the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church is kind of the ruler of this entire area, Italy and the surrounding countries. And the way that they work here is they allow for the support of adult stem cells and IVFs, but in their parliamentary republic, their Law 40 doesn't quite allow for them to do a lot of embryonic stem cell research specifically. So in Germany, they are very much more regulated than Italy even, which is crazy because of the Catholic Church in Italy. But Germany, they just believe human life is, bam, embryonic cell, just there it is, that's life. And so if it gets destroyed, then it's completely illegal. The government restricts the destruction of embryos, and that's a big fine, or it really depends on the severity of it, and a lot of scientists tend to lean away from embryonic stem cells for this reason. And of course, these stem cells are allowed to be in Germany. I know it would, depending on how you mess with them, so you could have a big lawsuit issue, or lots of laws kind of can fall on the scientist's head, but they are allowed to be imported into Germany as long as they're derived before May 2nd, 2007. And also, part of their creation thing, they're not allowed to be donated either. So if they're imported into Germany, let's say from China, then it's totally okay. But if they're created in Germany, that's a big issue. So I'm going to go ahead and do a really quick, brief overview of all of these countries. China, really loose, so a lot of stuff gets done. United Kingdom, kind of medium, but they really are amazing when it comes to research, so they continue to press on in competition with places like China and the United States. Italy, they are not really allowed to use embryonic stem cells because of the Catholic Church, but they are still actively in research with their high regulation. Germany, yeah, they don't really get to do a whole lot, actually, and it's really kind of interesting the way that that kind of works out, but their high regulation restricts them to do a lot of things. The United States, we have kind of a medium current level of regulation, but we are still participating in research in embryonic stem cells, just like the United Kingdom, because they are kind of our allies in that way, and in a lot of ways we relate to them. So thank you so much for listening to me, and hope this works out.